In this week's edition of Kobra's Corner, I want to go and take a look at a passing play that I like to run to go ahead and beat zone coverage. And the name of the passing play is called Gun Split Close Scat. And you can find this one out in the Michigan playbook if you're following along. So let's go ahead and take a look at the play. Now there's two routes that I want to talk about that we're going to go ahead and at least talk about, at least initially. And we'll talk about two other routes I also want to talk about as we go through this video breakdown. So let's go ahead and take a look at those first two pass routes. And that happens to be two mirror routes that the split in and the slot receiver are running. And this happens to be right here. As you look at your screen, you're going to notice the split in. We're just going to go ahead and call this a spot route because that's essentially what it is. He winds up coming in this area here, and he spots up in this area here, showing his numbers towards the quarterback. And the same thing with this guy over here, which happens to be the slot receiver. He does the same thing. He slants in, and he winds up showing his numbers as he turns around. And generally, against most of the zone coverages in the game, one of those two guys should be open. Now, what you want to do is once you spot that receiver open, you want to go ahead and use the total control passing, and you want to either throw it left or right depending on where the coverage is shaping up at. So let's go ahead and take a look at the other two pass routes that I want to talk about. And these routes also mirror each other as well, and that happens to be the halfback. He's lined up here as you look at your screen. Let's just go ahead and highlight him. And he's going to go ahead and run a swing route out towards the left sideline. So he winds up going in this area here, and he winds up going out there. And it's the same thing with this guy right here, which happens to be the tight end. So if you want to, you guys can always sub him in or package in another back if you want, maybe a halfback or a fullback, whatever you want to do. But for right now, it's the tight end right here, and he runs a swing route out towards the right sideline. So you have those options as well. And the reason I wanted to mention those is if your opponent was to blitz, then those would be the two receivers that you'd probably look to throw to. Now, as far as the reads go, for me, what I generally do is kind of pick out one side or the other I want to throw to. In this case, for this video breakdown, I'm going to go ahead and look to throw towards the right side. So I'm either going to look to throw to the tight end on the swing route, or I'm going to look to throw that slot receiver running the spot route there on the right side. Now, obviously, if neither one of those guys are open, then I'm going to go ahead and work my way over. So as a quarterback, I'm going to work my way here, and then I'm going to come back across and go over here. So let's go ahead and look at my reads again. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and make him my main read, which is going to be the tight end as he comes out. He's going to be my first read. Like I said, if they blitz, I'm going to probably want it thrown to him. And then my second read is going to wind up being this guy. As I said before, this is the slot receiver running that spot route right there. And then my third read is going to wind up being this guy, which is going to wind up being the split in. And then my fourth read in this case is going to wind up being this guy here. So I'm going to make all those reads, but generally by the time, usually by the first or second read, that's who I'm going to wind up throwing to. I may wind up going to my third read, but generally it's going to be the first two guys I look initially for. But in this case, I might wind up going to three guys. Now, as far as the outside receiver there on the right, as you look at your screen, which happens to be the flanker, he's running a go route. I generally don't look to throw to him at all. Now, obviously, if he was wide open, no one else was down or deep coverage for some reason, some kind of blown coverage or something like that, yeah, obviously I would throw it. But for this particular video breakdown, not even interested in trying to throw to him. All right, as far as the defense, let's go and look at this. Now, if you look at it, what you're going to wind up having here, as you look at it, you're going to wind up having a single high safety. In this case, it happens to be the free safety. And generally, if you see that, it either means cover one or cover three. So it's one or the other. And for me, knowing that, then that kind of tells me where I really want to go with the ball. And for me, as I said before, I'm going to look to go ahead and throw towards the right. So let's go ahead and run the play. And then we'll just kind of talk about a little bit more as we go into the overview right there. You can kind of see right there. Now, when you make that throw, you want to make sure you go ahead and throw it hard right when you make that throw. As I said before, you can notice how that linebacker is actually playing pretty close to him. So you got to make sure you throw it to the outside there. And that's what I just did there. He didn't complete it, but you can see that as long as he would have made that catch, it would probably been a 4 or 5 yard pickup. Same thing here again. And this time we wanted making a catch and we pick up 4 yards. Now, as I was reading this, as I was going through this, and I didn't see a blitz, and generally for me when I run this, what I'm going to look for is a blitzer coming off the right side of the offensive line. So if I wind up, for instance, saying this guy coming in here, we'll talk about here because I'm actually going to run this against a blitz. If say this guy came off the edge right here, then that would go ahead and ding to me that I need to go ahead and throw it to my check down receiver, which is going to wind up being that tight end as he was coming out of the backfield over here. But because there was no blitzer, let's go ahead and continue with this, then I'm not going to wind up doing that. I'm going to wind up going ahead and throwing to the inside receiver, which is that slot receiver. By the way, that defender I pointed out actually wasn't a linebacker. That's actually the safety there, the strong safety that is, who's playing the flat. But at any rate, if I see one of those guys blitzing off there, then a lot of times I'm going to wind up throwing. Now, if I see a guy go out and cover the flat, then as you can see on your screen there, then I'm not going to want to throw to the flat. So right now, as you look at it as a quarterback, I'm reading this guy right here. If I see him covering the flat, that tells me this guy's not open. Then I need to go and make my next read, which is this guy right here. And that's what I did on this particular play. And then I wound up making that throw there. And when I made that throw, let's go ahead and kind of go back in here behind the quarterback a little bit as we make that throw. You can kind of see that you're going to want to throw it towards the right, hard right there. See how it's going hard right? You don't want to throw it, as you make this throw, you don't want to throw it to the left where that linebacker can pick that off. You want to throw it to the right, away from him, in this case here. Now, if that linebacker was lined up, say, on this side of the field, over here, then what you'd want to do is you'd want to throw it to the inside here. So based on where that linebacker's at, kind of tells you where you want to wind up throwing that ball. And you can kind of see I make that catch. Let's go ahead and rotate a little bit over here because I want to talk about this read over here. Remember I talked about, as far as my reads go, that I'd have that tight end out there on the right would have been my first read. This would have been my second read. Well, if you look over here, this could have been my third read as well. And if you look, you're going to notice that this linebacker right here is dropping back in that hook zone. He's not really in position to make that play either. So if I'm going to make this throw to him, now I'm not going to throw it inside. I want to throw it outside by using that total control passing. I want to go ahead and throw it towards the left, hard left, and then he could wind up making a catch there. So that would be something that you could do. If you didn't think you could make that other throw there, you could make your reads as you go across the field real quick. So you go, bam, not open. You go across, keep going. Maybe he's not open, so you don't throw it to him. So you go across, bam, he's open. So you wind up making that throw. So you got some things you can do with this to go ahead and make this play successful against most of the zone coverages in the game. Let's go back and take a look at one last thing that I want to talk about, and that's against a blitz. So let's just run this against a blitz, and we'll just find one out of here. We'll run against this weak slant 3. That's fine. And then we'll run that same play that we just did earlier, which happens to be called Scat, out of the shotgun split close. You can kind of see there's the play again. We're going to go ahead and run it. And I want you guys to just watch. There's that blitzer coming off the edge. That tells me to throw it to the outside. I pick up maybe 4 yards right there. So I really don't waste too much time with this. I want to get it out there as fast as I can. Obviously, the tight end's probably not going to be as fast as you got a halfback. So maybe we could pick up a little bit more yards if we had a faster back. There we picked up 5. So that's going to be the other option. If you see a guy coming in off that edge and you don't see anybody covering the flat, then that should tell you where to go ahead and throw the ball. Here it comes. You can kind of see as we go into this zoom in here. You can see the blitzer's coming off the screen right here. He's coming in there on a blitz. And because of that, as he comes in right here, then that tells me as the quarterback that I need to go ahead and make that throw over here. Now, again, I'm watching to make sure there's nobody covering the flat. I can see there's no one covering the flat, and I just want to make that throw to the outside, and then I head up the field and pick up some positive yardage. So that's kind of how I'd run this play. I just wanted to go over that with you guys. A very nice little play to go ahead and beat zone coverage. Not a whole lot you got to do as far as hot route adjustments. Obviously, I didn't make any for this video breakdown. You don't have to if you don't need to. And this is one of those plays that allows you to do that without having to worry about doing all the crazy hot routes. So this name of the play is called Gun Split Close Scat. And you can find this one out of the Michigan playbook. A very nice play to run in NCAA 13.